Yesterday, the first images of the DJI Action 4 appeared. In addition, there are already quite a few specs on DJI's new action camera. And since these are definitely interesting and maybe a bit unexpected specs, I would like to share them with you today. However, all the information in this video is based on a leak and should therefore be taken with a grain of salt. The leak comes from Igor Bogdanov, who has already published very reliable information and leaks about new drones from DJI in the past weeks and months. Thus, the whole thing remains a speculation, but it is based on a relatively reliable source. But what is so interesting about the information on the Action 4? So far, we have a few photos of the Action 4, some important specs, and information about the price, so almost everything we want to know. Let's take a look at the photos first. As you can see here, the Action 4 looks almost identical to the Action 3. Externally, only the number on the camera has changed. And that makes perfect sense. DJI seems to be adapting to GoPro's strategy and simply launching a new, slightly improved version of its Action camera every fall. But that also means the Action 3 was a success. From the first photo though, you can really only tell that the Action 4 will likely look identically the same as the Action 3. It will have a comparable front display and a similar lens, whose lens cover is removable. That's not a bad thing in principle, as the Action 3 had a very good design that allowed for very long recording times, especially compared to the GoPro, and rarely led to overheating issues. A bit more surprising is the information in the second image. The field of view appears to have a viewing angle of 155 degrees and the aperture is 2.8, both of which specifications match those of the Action 3. The sensor, on the other hand, appears to have a size of 1/1.3, and if that's true, it's a big surprise. The Action 4's image sensor would thus be significantly larger than the Action 3's sensor, which has a 1/1.7 sensor, and of course larger than the GoPro Hero 11 sensor, which has a 1/1.9 sensor. A larger sensor has advantages, but also a few disadvantages, especially when it comes to action cameras. The advantages of a larger sensor are especially apparent in low light conditions. A larger sensor can simply capture more light. Image quality in bad lighting conditions or low light can be significantly improved this way. A larger sensor can also result in better dynamic range, meaning that if an image has very bright and very dark areas, larger sensors are normally better able to capture details in the very bright and very dark areas. Simply summarized, a larger sensor will normally result in better image quality, but larger sensors also have a shallower depth of field. This means that if a subject in the foreground is in focus, the background would be blurrier than with a smaller sensor. Large cameras with large sensors therefore usually have autofocus. The focus is thus continuously adjusted to the subject. This ensures that the subject is always in focus. This does not apply to action cameras. If there is a lot of movement in the image, the focus would have to continuously adjust to the subject incredibly quickly. This will not always work reliably and would result in the subject sometimes being out of focus. For this reason, action cameras have a fixed focus. This is set to infinity. Objects that are too close to the camera can therefore not be displayed sharply. This is not necessarily a problem with an action camera. After all, you don't want to take portraits or close-ups with it, but the larger the sensor, the larger the area near the camera that remains out of focus. I also remember the problems that the Action 3 already had. The Action 3, especially the first cameras that were sold, had a clear sharpness problem that was not completely solved until the end. Subjects that were not too far away simply always appeared out of focus. And the problem wasn't just due to the Action 3's slightly larger sensor. Smaller sensors also have other advantages. They are not only cheaper, they can also be read out faster, thus possibly enabling higher frame rates and possibly offer advantages when it comes to overheating or battery life. These advantages must therefore be weighed against better image quality. And on the subject of frame rates, there is a bit more information. This isn't at all that groundbreaking though. The Action 4 is set to allow recording in 4K 60 and slow motion recording in 4K 120. This is now standard for classic action cameras. The Action 4 is also set to weigh exactly the same as the Action 3, 145 grams. The only other interesting thing is that it is supposed to be waterproof up to 18 meters. That's 2 meters more than the Action 3. Important 2 meters. Because with 18 meters, you get exactly to the maximum depth allowed with the basic diving certificate open water. What about the price? Unfortunately, there seems to be a slight increase here as well. The standard combo is set to cost $399, so $70 more than the $329 for the standard combo of the Action 3. The Adventure combo, which should include extra batteries and an extension rod, is expected to cost $499. That's $60 more than the Adventure combo of the Action 3. But I guess we'll have to brace brace ourselves for price increases on most upcoming cameras. It's also interesting that the leak came out so early. That could indicate that the Action 4 could be released very soon. In other words, much sooner than one would expect. For strategic reasons, these cameras are mostly released in September, in anticipation of the holiday season. Maybe DJI just wants to get ahead of GoPro this year. Let's wait and see. What's your take on the Action 4? Write me in the comments. If you're interested in what's currently the best action camera, check out my related comparison. There will surely be a review of the Action 4 and upcoming action cameras on this channel. So stay tuned and give me a like as feedback if the video is interesting for you.